Pipeline Awareness.
Ann Pinko, President of Lebanon Pipeline Awareness. Good morning.
And Phil Stober from Barefoot Organics and also with Lebanon Pipeline Awareness.
So just briefly, we emailed you this letter, 3-page letter. This has been going on for some time now, and it will continue to unfold as but the basic story is that Williams Transco, the builder of the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline, filed suit in Tulsa, Oklahoma, District Court against Welded Construction of Perrysburg, Ohio, and is withheld on the magnitude of like $21 million from their invoices, which in turn prompted Welded to file for bankruptcy, which in turn led to a series of claims locally by local businesses against Welded. As you can see, there are 8 claims by 7 different businesses. It's almost $250,000, and this is on the heel. And the claims period is open until the end of February, so there still might be more claims forthcoming. And just by way of context, as the letter sort of outlines, back in 2017, Williams Transco initiated this smartphone app, Will Shop Local, and the idea was to get contractors and working for Williams Transco to use local businesses, which was a great idea. And now this is what has sort of transpired over time, is by using these local businesses now are in debt with unpaid invoices to the tune of nearly $250,000. So it's sort of outlined all there. Do you have any questions? Were the commissioners aware of this of bankruptcy and this sort of ripple effect locally for local businesses?
I have had a conversation maybe a month ago, I can't remember the exact timeline, with a local farmer to the tune of $40,000 they're owed for straw. And I understand there are many other farmers in similar situations. Would they be able to join in this lawsuit to recover their losses?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. I doubt it.
It would have to be the same vendor.
Unless Welded is their vendor.
Yeah.
Who are they? Who did they sell it to? Who
was them the money?
You know, you'd have to talk to Bonnie Winger. I don't remember exactly who the company was that she was delivering to, and from what I recall of the conversation, they were told, well, you have to continue to deliver your product, otherwise you won't get paid for future product.
So I guess what this suggests to me and to us, I suspect, is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. That the promise was for local businesses. This will be a boon to the local economy, injecting money, jobs, etc. And now we see the reality that this is just the public filings that we were able to uncover. You've been able to uncover more. There's probably more lost revenue by local businesses, farmers, etc. that has yet to be toted up. So we don't know what the overall economic impact on Lebanon County is, but it seems like, we don't know whether the negatives and all the unpaid bills and invoices outweigh the amount of money that has actually come in from contractors. So this may well have been a net loss for the county. We don't know.
So you don't have a feel for what percentage of the picture this is?
No.
This is one company and one group of debtors, and it's $250,000.
Right.
And that's not everybody. We just kind of highlighted the ones that are. There's a couple. There's $500 here. There's $750 here. So for an individual like myself, $750 would be a big deal. For someone who's owed $20,000, maybe they can absorb that. But there's a lot in there that you look at the size of the companies. And
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, to speak to your question, again, not an attorney and not familiar with bankruptcy, but there is a February 28th deadline. I think you double checked that in the paperwork.
So they would still have
the
time.
claims need to be filed. So I think it would be good if somehow the word was put out about this. Maybe the commissioners could look into this and get some sort of announcement out.
Well, I see we have a local radio reporter there, so they'll certainly help to get the word out. And if we can get, the local papers on board, so that anyone who is owed money, maybe they'll get 50 cents on a dollar, but that's better than nothing.
Right.
And then sort of wrapping up, and I'll turn it over to Ann briefly, that there is the concluding paragraph describes because Welded went bankrupt and stopped doing the work, there remains a lot of reconstruction work undone here in Lebanon County. at the Snitch Creek crossing, at the Swatara Creek crossing, and other places as well. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, because unfortunately for us, Welded did both the Mariner East and the Atlantic Sunrise, so they are responsible for the two projects in our county. So it's sort of a double hit. So some of these losses are from, you know, either one of those projects. And just to go back to your question, since that window is still open to file claims, we don't know what else is going to come in. Some others came in since we first looked into this, so there could be more that are going to be filed. So we don't know the final total yet. But as for the restoration work, now I have been in touch with Carl at the Conservation District. There was a problem which we noted in the one area that just was sitting there untouched for almost over a month. And I have alerted to him to that, and it was supposed to be fixed as of yesterday, so hopefully that was taken care of. We do realize that some of the restoration work has to wait for better weather. Winter came, but it is supposed to be stabilized, so that straw you're talking about is supposed to be over areas that aren't seeded and that sort of thing. But our concerns, as they were all along, and which we helped to try and address with our own monitoring project, is we just don't feel that the Conservation District was in a position to be able to properly monitor this. And I don't think it's because they aren't doing their work. There aren't enough people to do the work. It comes across the board from DEP, who we understand has one person to respond to emergency calls for our whole region, which I think is 13 or 14 counties. So when I would call them, they'd say, we don't have anybody, but we'll refer it to your Conservation District, which also, I think Carl is the only person that goes out, and I understand he was, is he still the acting director?
No.
Okay,
No,
but for a time he was.
He is,
So, I appreciate.
second, he is actually co-director with Katie Dozier.
Okay, but at a time he was acting alone, and I appreciate that he just could not get out to
That
do
was
these
years ago.
projects.
That was years ago. We've had a director in place for many years now.
I thought somebody left recently, within the last year.
They did, but we had an immediate hire.
Oh, all right, okay. At any rate, it's different than a construction site where you have a site that's just there, and when you go, it's you know, it's that same site that you can keep checking on. The pipeline had several crews working across 20+ miles of the county. It's impossible for one person to be responsible to monitor that, and consequently, a lot of the things we discovered fell through the cracks. A lot of the things we couldn't note because they were on private land that we didn't have access to, which the Conservation District would. So we just felt that was a real loss to the county. We know there was a lot of environmental damage. We've certainly heard from people who had a lot of complaints, who spent months and years disputing with the companies to get things fixed. Some did, some didn't. So this has just been a real problem. And it's just something I really think we need to think about with this sort of project coming in, and maybe try to address head on before anything like this happens again. But we'd certainly like to see this work finished up. And Carl did give me the name of the new group that's come in, to the new contractor, so we do have that. So there's a new contractor, and they hopefully will get things taken care of.
Well, not to be difficult, but just for my own satisfaction, what would you have us do to prevent the situation that occurred with these bankruptcies? Because when you extend credit to an out-of-state company, you accept the responsibility that, you know, you may not get paid. With the bankruptcy laws the way they are today, I mean, I was in the hardware business and I saw Jono. They're a wonderful hardware store, but I don't quite understand the logic of extending thousands of dollars of credit to a company from outside the state for hardware items.
It could well be that the endorsement given by the strong and you know, really the very strong endorsement given by the Lebanon County Chamber of Commerce may well have you know, persuaded local businesses this is reliable. We can trust these people. The Chamber of Commerce is behind it. You know, if I were a business owner and I saw the Chamber of Commerce touting the virtues of this app that you know, buying local, I would think that this was all on the up and up, and there's, you know, what are the odds they're going to go bankrupt? So, you know, I think the public and you know, strong endorsement that is included on the Williams website may well be one reason why, you know, local businesses trusted Welded to, you know, run up debts of $50,000 at a local hardware store. So,
You know, with the credit cards, processes that are available today, it would have been just as easy for these vendors to say, you know, we'll gladly do business with you, we want your business, but the cost has to be covered now as we sell you the items.
so in other words, it's the business's fault.
No, I'm saying that it's not, I'm not putting blame on anyone. I'm just saying that you have to recognize when you do business like this, you're vulnerable. I mean, I've had people go bankrupt against my company, many of them over the years. It's a fact of business. It's not pleasant. It's not anything that we should endure, but we all do.
I think
at one time or another.
I think what we're trying to do, Commissioner Ames, is focus on the 50,000 foot level. Before these came in, and I have a letter that I wrote 4 years ago that I'm going to read probably the first 5 paragraphs from, if you'll bear with me. And I think that's the kind of the context of how we want decisions made by our leaders in the future. So, if I may. So this is a letter I wrote in March in 2015. As Earth Day approaches, and the title is How Do You Put a Price on the Priceless? And it was in the Lebanon Daily News. As Earth Day approaches, the discussions continue about the wonderful economic impacts projects like the Atlantic Sunrise Pipeline construction will have on the economy of Pennsylvania. The enthusiastic arguments of Dennis Heller notwithstanding, to wit, the countless jobs and the millions of dollars to be pumped into our economy ignores the real costs associated with those countless jobs and all that income. The oil and gas companies and their cheerleaders always tout the economic benefits of these projects, since economic success is ultimately the only measure by which these companies and their shareholders evaluate success. Social and environmental responsibility and any thoughts of the costs associated with these projects are greatly underestimated or even ignored altogether. What about resource conservation, sustainability, and pollution prevention? As a starting point, I'm highly dubious of the number of permanent jobs and the real economic impact of these pipelines when you compare the magnitude of the environmental and societal repercussions these projects will have on our region. The jobs associated have been grossly overestimated, and they are not permanent jobs. For instance, it was publicly stated by the CEO of TransCanada that after the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline running from Canada south through the U.S., only 50 people will be needed to operate it. Similarly, in a recent article by Adam France in the Lebanon Daily News, critiquing a Penn State study on the economic impacts of the Williams Atlantic Natural Sunrise gas pipeline, it was reported the study stated the ongoing operations of the pipeline following construction could create 29 jobs. Thus, the number of permanent jobs are admittedly insignificant, according to people responsible for the operations of these pipelines. In 40 to 50 years, when all the oil and gas is extracted from the ground, and Pennsylvania has to contend with thousands of derelict wellheads, tens of thousands of miles of empty, rotting pipelines, and the last vestiges of once virgin forest and farmland, what economic benefit will we realize then? How do you put a price on the priceless? How will it ever be restored, and who will pay for that? So I go on and talk about a few more things, but that's the point, is that, you know, all these jobs that were going to be created, there was no talk about guys going to be out for money going forward. I used to see the guys over by my farm, there'd be 16, 17 trucks, 10 of them from out of state. So it's all this rosy scenario that's painted for us all before these pipelines come through, and we're all left cleaning up the mess. And so all we're asking for is to take a 50,000 foot look at it in the future, because there's going to be somebody else is going to come through. There's going to be more pipelines that they're going to want to put through here, and we're going to ask you guys to really think about it. Do we really need them, and what do they really cost? Thank you.
I think that maybe the one thing we could do is revisit with our local planning department a model ordinance available to the local municipalities. I think I remember proposing that quite some time ago, which would help guide the process, because we can't stop them necessarily from doing it, but we can certainly in advance have what's expected of them as coming into our backyards and our homes, basically, and our businesses, and being guests while they're here.
And I think we also have to, the paradigm shift that we have to make, that we say we can't stop them. When we've been told, scientists are telling us that if we don't stop this in 12 years, it's all over. So it's not like we put a man on the moon when John Kennedy said we're going to put a man on the moon in the decade, and we did it. It's not like Americans can't do it. So that's all. That's what we need to think of this more on a societal level. Is how do we have a huge problem. I've seen it here locally. You talk to any farmer, you look at any field in this area. I only got one cutting of hay off this year, and we're seeing insects arrive that were never in this area before, and now they're arriving much sooner. And so anybody that's in this field, literally and figuratively, understands we have a huge problem. And to just say there's nothing we can do about it is just rolling over and saying, yeah, we're done. So I don't have any kids, but if I did, I'd feel really, really bad about what I was leaving them. And that's how I think we all have to think about this together as a society, and we have to do something that stops this.
If I could, I'd like to jump back just to sort of
Okay.
comment on top of what Mike said with the endorsements and things. And then I have a question. A lot of money was accepted from the industry for various sponsorships and things like that. And so when their name is on the county fair and things like that, I know a lot of events. We know that Sunoco gave money to the Land Preservation Fund. When that money is accepted, that sort of also, I think, implies that this is a credible company that we're dealing with. And I just think we would ask that you would be a little more questioning. We were at that luncheon where they presented the app, and there were no questions really raised about any of that. Nobody was asked. And it occurs to me, and I don't know if there's any kind of legality to this, but I know how townships they get bonds in place for road damage that's covered. Is there any kind of thing that the county can do for economic damages or losses or things like that that could be required of a pipeline company coming in? I really have no idea if that's possible, but maybe some sort of thing like that would show them that we're serious, that we expect you, I realize Welded did not expect to go bankrupt, but this was caused by Williams. So I guess my question to you too is, have you had any contact with either Williams or Sunoco lately about anything with the pipelines?
Not that I'm aware of.
So nothing, because there's still, the Mariner project is not finished yet, so that still will be working in the county for a while. So you have not had any contact. And I guess as we asked, we would hope that you would concerning this problem.
So I heard 3 recommendations: look into bonds, and of course I remembered the model ordinance, and accepting dollars from the companies.
And then third, we recommend, or we suggest respectfully in the letter, that the commissioners write a strongly worded letter to our federal and state representatives expressing your dismay at the state of affairs for Lebanon County local businesses, we don't know quite what else is in your authority to do, but at least to resolve that this is not a desirable state of affairs, that it's a deplorable state of affairs for our local businesses.
We'll consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.